All right, guys, welcome back to Boots Come in Pairs. Been a couple weeks. Ryan has visited a new minor league team. I love that logo. I love the River Dogs. Is that
hmm
a Rays affiliate? But yeah, another fun couple of weeks. Injury prone weeks for the Cubs. Yeah, Nico Horner's out with a hamstring. Dansby went on the IL. They were kind of talking about like what it took for him to accept an IL stint because he's just a guy that likes to play every day. But at least you know with a guy like that, he's going to come back as fast as he can. And no one's running away with the Central, so I think Council's taking the right approach of just let's get through April, May, June, and then maybe add some pieces. But first for tonight, the strike zone has been a reoccurring theme in baseball and just the inconsistency of the strike zone, especially with who's behind the plate. You kind of know what you're going to get. Hunter Wendelstedt is legally blind. Angel Hernandez doesn't know what planet he's on. So a lot of these guys are just very inconsistent. But we're seeing the replay at AAA come into play quite a bit. So we know that's coming, right? How are you viewing the strike zone, and what do you think the next step is for getting that kind of system up in the major leagues?
I think if we can continue to see success and just overall happiness in the minor leagues, it's just going to prove like they use the minor leagues as a testing ground. If it works, they move it on up. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. And the thing that we want to preach more than anything is accountability. Like you can't just show up and do a job and do poorly and continue to get away with it. It's just not. It's not a good thing. I understand that there are definitely intricacies in the game that make an umpire's job harder. Catchers are getting increasingly better at framing and stealing strikes. There's so much movement and velocity when it comes to these arms too, in the major league game and the minor league game. So it can be pretty difficult to make the right call all the time, but it's okay to have help. Some guys need it more than others, for sure, like you just mentioned. But that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, you just have to be held accountable, and that's all there is to it.
And I've been watching a little more AAA baseball recently, and it's just like, it's so seamless. And there's no arguing, and you don't have to be like Oliver Marmol got tossed a couple pitches into the game versus the Brewers because it's like egregious calls early in the game, screwing up the pitcher, and then you just don't know what a strike is. And he's like, oh, I respect, the umpires. But like, it's faster, right? Rob Manfred wants to make the game fast. If you just simply challenge it instead of having a 30-minute argument about why you're wrong and it's clear and obvious, and it's not endless challenges. You get 3 wrong challenges and you're done. Okay, cool. But these guys know what a ball and strike is, and if they're wrong, okay, they can move on. They don't have to sit there and wonder. It's not the umpires getting together like the NFL where it's like, let's replay and see where that strike went. No, it's instant. It takes like 2 seconds, and they just give thumbs up, thumbs down, and you move on. But it's just to see something be so successful and then watch the struggle at the major league is kind of unacceptable.
And you got to feel for the hitter as well, because we say the same thing about the hitters. Like, they know the strike zone. How many times over the years has there been like the line drawn in the dirt,
Yep.
or like all that stuff? And you just look at it and it's like, well, they were right. And
Yeah.
they're not going to be right all the time. But these guys have been playing baseball for a very long time,
Yeah.
and they know the zone. They know what they can and can't hit. And you're all about having a quality at bat every time up. Some people have different goals than others. Some people want to get a hit every time. Some people want to get on base every time. Some people want to go deep every time.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different goal, but no one wants to get cheated. That's the common thing.
This is one of the few sports I think where there's still a hesitancy to add replay in. Like they've added in a lot of places, like calling runners out at second when they're sliding in, or out plays at first. But it's just that last little like, can we get over the hump of like encapsulating the whole game in replay when it's available? That way, it just levels the playing field even more. It makes it a more consistent game, and that's what the players want. They just want to know what a strike is and what a ball is, instead of just like, this is what the umpire thinks it is for the night. And there's some really good umpires, and baseball's hard. It's such a judgment game. Guys are throwing so hard. Like you said, the catchers are framing it better than ever, but it just seems like a bad excuse to not have. And I understand they're working on it, but it can't come fast enough. I hope by 2025 it's fully implemented.
I don't see in any world where it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and hopefully it leads into the second thing for tonight. Does baseball have a contact problem? We're seeing batting averages continue to drop. We're seeing such an emphasis on, swing speed and launch angle and all these other things. And there was a graphic where it was like, balls in play with a swing speed over, 84 miles per hour were shown to have a higher batting average. So everyone's just like, hey, I just need to swing harder and I'm going to get more hits. But the graphic also showed the guys with the highest swing speed are Giancarlo Stanton. Horrible batting average. The guy with the lowest swing speed, Luis Arraez, 65 miles an hour, has the highest batting average. So it's like those don't compute. What do you think the solution is? Maybe having a consistent strike zone will help guys' batting average. The shift hasn't really done much for it, but it could. What do you think the solution is to see more balls in play? I just feel like there's so much swing and miss and not enough action.
I equate it to going over to the pitcher side of things, like the emphasis being on the spin and the velocity. They want the powerful, crazy, amazing things in every aspect of the sport. Yeah. So the long ball, the extra base hit, the speed at which a ball leaves a bat, that's exciting to people. They can put numbers to it. That's how I look at it. I think that the game glorifies that, and that is how you get paid. That's how you get the contract. That's how you get you get noticed by people. Yeah. In a way, it takes away from the beauty that is the game, which, you're just doing whatever. Like, you don't want everybody to be the same player. You don't want everybody to be hitting moonshots all the time. It gets boring. Like, I want to see other stuff. There's plenty of other things about the game, and they get lost because of what's glorified and what gets you paid. I saw an interview. I think his name is Zach Granite. He's a former Major League Baseball player. I think it's Zach. I know his last name is Granite, but he was an outfielder for the Yankees and the Twins. I remember him when he played, but he was talking about how he wished that he would have just stayed true to who he was when he got to the big show. He was able to get to the major leagues being who he was, being more of a contact hitter, being a certain kind of player. But the pressure from the executives and the coaching staff to be the guy who has an 110 mile an hour exit velocity and to be the guy who hits 25 home runs a year, like, that's not going to be everybody. Right. So I think that the game needs to do a better job of rewarding players for doing great things, not necessarily doing the same great thing, which is the sexy thing, which is the home run and the exit velocity. So yeah. I think it's like playing in the wrong system. A guy could be playing with this team and he's not breaking through, and he has a change of scenery. He's able to be more himself, and it's like, wow, where was this guy? Well, he was always there, but he found the right situation for him.
Well, the knock on Cody Bellinger this offseason was like, his contact speed, hard contact speed went down. You know what, though? I would rather Cody Bellinger, and maybe Scott Boras is another reason why he was passed on by some teams, but like, would you rather Cody Bellinger strike out with a really high swing speed, or would you rather him put a little flare into the opposite field that might be a base hit or is just a productive out? I'll take the productive out over the strikeout. But we're emphasizing so much, you're right, these power numbers, the instant offense, all this stuff. And I hate it. I can't stand the lack of consistency and contact. Guys aren't playing fundamental baseball. That doesn't play in the World Series. That doesn't play in October. and there's such an emphasis on it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the way that, again, the pitch speed has gone up, the spin rate's gone up. It's impossible to hit. It really is. So I get why batting averages has dropped for that purpose. But when you're constantly swinging all or nothing, it works for a few guys. Betts, Ohtani, they can do that and hit for high averages. They're freaks right now. They're hitting over 340. But the majority of the league, there's so many. Like, what's the new Mendoza line, right? Like, there's so many guys hitting 200 or below right now. It's
and they play every day. And
Yeah.
I will drag a guy into this conversation that we both love, Kyle Schwarber.
Yes.
Kyle Schwarber Kyle Schwarber is never going to be out of that lineup, and he's going to hit near the top, and they're going to take he's going to hit leadoff, and he's going to do what he does. He's going to cause damage, and he'll get on base. It's not that the on base percentage has gone down, because it hasn't. No. It's just the contact rate. It's the average. How average isn't that important anymore. But I remember, I don't know if it was during spring training or shortly after, but they were talking to Bo Bichette, and Bo Bichette thinks that the most important thing is average, and I think I tend to agree with him. I mean, to me, I'm more of an OPS guy myself. I like to incorporate all of it. I like that 350 plus mark when it comes to your on base percentage. I like to see a higher average. I'd prefer to see a higher average. I just know it's really difficult to hit in this day and age. But I hope that we continue to see more things. Like the other night, we saw PCA drag a bunt to second base. He saw a shift in the defense, and he saw an opportunity, and he took a bunt with him, launched it past the pitcher to second base where there was no one, and he got himself on base. So whatever you got to do.
Those things play, especially in this era where hits are at a premium. If you can find a creative way to get on base, go for it. I don't know if Kyle Schwarber exists as a DH 20 years ago, because you can't hit I don't care if you hit 45 homers, you can't hit 185. But in today's game, for some reason, you can. And he does other things. Homers are great. The RBIs are great, but it's staggering sometimes to see a batting average in the ones. Mm-hmm. And understand that this is one of the premier power bats in the league. It still doesn't compute. I don't like it. I don't think I ever will like it. But there's just so many guys right now. Corey Seager's on a massive slump. Matt Olson's just started to hit a little bit, but he's at 210. Bo Bichette, who values average, is hitting very close to 200.
Who's always hit too.
Yeah, and you know what? It's early-ish. We're 40 games in, whatever it is. And things will average out, but it's just, I don't remember seeing it like this. I don't remember seeing this long into the season where you still have such an incredible amount of guys hitting for the average they're hitting. And then not value a Luis Ariz, who leads the league batting average. He's been traded 3 times already.
I'd take him.
Yeah, I absolutely. Plug him in at third. I don't care. That's fine. But one position that you were hitting at that's hitting better is catchers.
Yeah,
which is bizarre.
It's wild, and to have, and I can't remember the last time where there were so many quality catchers. Whereas to I don't even know who's going to be an all-star. I don't know if you could say that anyone does or doesn't deserve. If someone made it over someone else, I don't know if you could say, oh, well, he deserves to be he doesn't deserve it. It's there's just so many good catchers. William Contreras, Will Smith, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Jeffers, Travis d'Arnaud, Connor Wong, Salvi Perez, Yainer Diaz. I mean, most of these guys, I would say the top however many guys, they all have OPSs of over 850, which is crazy. Yeah. They're playing great defense. I mean, it's wild to see, and I would say arguably the best. I mean, Salvi is definitely having a wonderful season. He's contributing to the awesomeness that's going on in Kansas City right now. But man, William Contreras is like an MVP candidate. That guy is something else.
I personally can't stand him. Probably because he's hitting too well. But one guy you omitted, which they do the same thing with Contreras, Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, I said Adley Rutschman.
When these guys aren't catching, they're DHing. That's what's crazy. Is it never used to be that way. It's like usually your catcher is worn down, he's tired, so when he gets a day off, he gets a day off. You don't need his bat in the lineup. Not for most of these guys now. It's Sean Murphy was the same way. Salvador Perez, you get in the lineup somehow, some way, you need that bat in there, and it's kind of fun to see. It's kind of fun to see it flip a little bit. Maybe the one knee approach has helped saving their legs a little bit. Again, if you automate that strike zone, you don't have to worry about the way they're receiving it as long as they're blocking it. But I think for some of these guys, and Contreras is not a good defensive catcher, but they are equally up to the task. Salvador Perez is still one of the best defensive catchers. Shea Langoliers is hitting. Apparently, he just hits against Texas, but he's a very good defensive catcher for a really bad pitching staff. But he's got one of the quickest release times.
And he can hit it a long way. He's only hitting about 220, 218, but
that's up for him.
He's got thunder in his bat, though. I mean, he can hit it a long way.
Yeah.
I've been really impressed, and this is not a wide known name by people who aren't like super into baseball, but Ryan Jeffers for the Twins is routinely hitting like leading off or hitting 3. He's already got 10 homers, over 30 RBIs. He's hitting about 300 too. He's having a really good year. I mean, they kind of have a good battery of guys between him and Christian Vasquez, but when he's not catching, Jeffers is DHing. Yeah. So they figured out something there too. Yeah.
Which
it's cool.
Sucks because the Cubs are probably the worst offensive catching duo right now. And last year they were pretty good. Yan Gomes just hasn't recreated the magic of his 40-year-old self. And Miguel Amaya is hitting under 200. So it's just... Yeah, when everyone else is kind of, doing well at those positions, you also want your team to have a good catcher. Maybe that's something they add as well, because I don't think you go in to September with your catchers hitting below 200, both of them, with bad contact rate. So that's another area. That's, again, the league is going this way. You kind of got to follow. I don't know what catching prospects they have coming up. I know they turned Wilson Contreras from a shortstop to a catcher, but do you have that guy somewhere?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't see him down there. They have a lot of really good prospects, but not catchers.
Yeah. Well, when you can't do, you buy. So always that option. A lot of teams aren't in it. We'll see what kind of shakes out at the deadline. The Cardinals will be sellers. We've kind of seen that. Just a lot of bad. We're going to give them their own category. A lot of bad from them. First off, Wilson Contreras, we were just touching on. Literally standing on the back foot of the batter, and the bat hit his arm. It was JD Martinez, who has a long swing, but the bat hit him twice on the forearm. That's impressive. You have to be really, really close to a guy to get it. That's just one of the weird things that the Cardinals are doing right now. That's just not working. I don't know who told them to do that. They're claiming he was taught to do that. I don't know. But what else about the Cardinals is just bizarre to you? Besides the fact they're not winning, which is bizarre.
Yeah, I would say that the Contreras, like that whole injury and the whole concept of stealing strikes that way, where you're getting closer to the plate to get to the ball sooner, like you're attacking the ball as a catcher. That's nothing you're ever taught. No. And he didn't just learn that he didn't pick that up on his own. He was taught to do that. That whole thing was bizarre. He was actually having a decent offensive season. One of a few guys.
Great offensive. Great start.
One of the weirdest, like Paul Goldschmidt, I've never seen him look so lost. Yeah. Nolan Arenado's OPS is like under 700, which is terrible.
Yeah. He's hitting 260.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but six. Like I think he's like 670 OPS.
Well, okay, Arenado though,
no power,
is figuring it out. They were showing him in batting practice, and they're like, "Watch his batting practice." They go, "He changed something." So I would watch. That would be another BCIP prediction. Arenado is launching the ball differently right now, and he's hit 2 home runs since they showed that. So I think he's turning over the leaf. He's finding his power again.
Well, he's the only guy because Goldschmidt's got nothing. He looks terrible. They said he made a change in his swing that makes no sense. Yeah. Jordan Walker was doing so bad that they sent him down. Yeah. Lars Nootbaar is lost. Nolan Gorman is a loss. Mason Wynn's actually playing pretty well. Alec Burleson's playing pretty well, but Dylan Carlson, all these guys are not doing well. The trio of pitchers that they brought in are doing pretty decent. Sonny Gray looks good. Gibson, Lance Lynn. The rest of the rotation is trash. If they are moving pieces, they have 4 outstanding relievers. I know they'd never trade them to the Cubs or do anything like that, but between Jojo Romero, Ryan Helsley, Andrew Kittredge, and who's the last guy? There's one more guy I had. Yeah. Fernandez. I think Fernandez. They're all excellent arms. Somebody's going to add those arms because they're bottom feeders. Now they have the worst record in the Central. They were on a 3-game winning streak and they lost last night 7-2 to the Angels. They're just not making Cardinal moves. These decisions they're making are terrible. I've never seen them like this. The fans aren't showing up to the games. It's crazy.
They've been so spoiled for so long. They've won so much. They've done so many things that appear to be right. Like Jeremy said a long time, it was just like, you trust them because they've just gotten the moves right. But the mistrust comes. They're like, are they going to fire the GM? Are they going to fire Marmol? Are they going to bring in Yadi Molina? There's all this other stuff going on. I kind of asked Jeremy that question at the beginning when it was like, hey, what happens if they don't start well? Where does this go? Where do they teeter? And he goes, no, I think they're teetering the other direction. This old pitching staff isn't working. And when they get to August, they're going to be even worse. They're not playing defensively sound baseball. Mason Wynn is erratic at shortstop. He's good. He's a huge talent. I think they're doing it backwards. And it's because he's hitting. I get it. But Brandon Crawford should be teaching him how to play shortstop. And instead, it's just, we're giving him a spot start when Mason Wynn needs a break or whatever. And it's just, I feel like to develop him as a shortstop, Brandon Crawford's got to be on the field with him, whether it's at second, whether you flip-flop them, whatever it is. I think they're doing a disservice to a young kid who's got a lot of talent. But yeah, defensively, you can tell they're just a little bit off. And now you've lost your catcher. So.
And they also need to hit the dang ball. They're bottom 3 offense in baseball.
Oh,
they have to hit.
Runs.
They can't hit. They don't hit. They don't hit at all. They don't score runs.
I made a note of that in spring training of like, they're the last team to like hit a home run in spring training. It's continued. This is who they are. They do not hit home runs. And you're right, Paul Goldschmidt hasn't found the stroke yet. He had an opposite field home run in Milwaukee, and they thought like, okay, maybe that'll get him jump started, but still kind of the same thing. He's hitting about 200 as well. So
yeah, I mean, even if they're not hitting home runs, just score runs. They're like 27th in baseball in runs scored. They're terrible.
Yeah, and it's hard to do, again, especially when you're throwing, like Lance Lynn's not going to throw shutout baseball. Like, that's just not his game. He's going to let up some hits. Kyle Gibson going to let up some hits. Steven Matz has not been great. Like, you said their pitching's been good. It's not lights out.
I wouldn't say lights out, but 3 of their 5 starters have ERAs below 4, which, I mean, that's not terrible. And then you have 4 really good bullpen arms. So, like, you should be able to do enough to win more games, maybe be around 500 with 3 decent pitchers and solid 4 or 5 relievers, but they just don't score runs. They don't score runs. They're playing bad defense. It doesn't help the pitching out.
Yeah. And it's not because it's just an oddity, though, because it's not because they constructed a bad roster. You still have, I know Goldschmidt's not hitting. They are still the best corner tandem, I would say, in the league. Like, they should be. I'm not saying they are currently, but like that was set up for success, right? You thought like Cardinals got these 2 guys for nothing, and like they should have success for the next 10 years. That hasn't worked. You're right. Their prospects, every guy you named off the list is like a guy they've homegrown, and it's just they're the same guy. They no pop, untimely hitting, and just it's not
getting injured.
Yeah, it's just not working. And it's weird. It's weird, and I like to see it. I enjoy the fact that the Cardinals aren't playing well, but it also doesn't make any sense because we've been so conditioned to seeing them just figure it out and have their guys come up and perform, and it's been the opposite. And you have some bullpen pieces. Those might fetch you some return at the break, like the bullpen pieces are useless if you're not winning games to you as an organization. Like these arms only have so many bullets in them, right? You don't know when TJ's coming. You don't know when all that stuff's going to end. So having a bullpen that's lights out for 4 innings doesn't matter if you're a losing baseball team. Mm-hmm. That's your biggest option to acquire new talent, because you can, all right, here, give me 4 prospects. I will give you Helsley, whoever, you name it. You can have them. Give us a haul in return. So I would look to that as how they get back. But I don't mind if they don't too. They can just ride it out and suck.
Yes.
That's totally cool with me. We can put them in the box. I can't remember the last time the Cardinals finished last. They probably haven't. It's never been a conversation.
Where were they last year? Second to last?
Sure. Yeah. Where was Pittsburgh?
I mean, they were the Cubs, the Brewers, and the Reds were all fighting for it at the end last year. So they had to have been. They were either the worst or right in front of the Tigers.
Well, that can be another conversation too. Is
Pirates.
The Reds have been a little disappointing too, but we don't need to hammer everybody tonight. Good and bad here. You got, what's your good for this week?
My good this week is the Diggin' Deep podcast that I've been listening to quite intently. So this is former first baseman, Padre and Royal, Eric Hosmer, former big league reliever, Peter Moylan, who is a Red or a Brave and a Royal as well. And then Justin Sua, who is a mental performance coach. He has led organizations in their mental performance, kind of like Coach Brian Kane, who Sean had mentioned. But Justin has worked with IMG Academy in Florida, the prep high school. He's worked with the Rays. He's worked with the Red Sox and a couple others. A really solid dude. But I've just really been enjoying listening to those guys talk about baseball. They have guests on every time that they meet, and just some great conversations. They had Salvi Perez on for this week's episode, and that was fantastic. They had Tyler Glasnow on last week, and that was a great conversation. He's a great dude. I love listening to Tyler Glasnow talk about pitching.
They should have Pete Fairbanks on.
They probably would, honestly, at some point. But yeah, they had Mike Sweeney on, former big leaguer. Bobby Witt Jr. was a great conversation. I really got to learn more about him and his approach. Just an awesome young dude he is. They had Fernando Tatis and Jurickson Profar on at the same time, which was great. It's just great baseball, and it's awesome to see because I always liked Eric Hosmer, and Pete Moylan was always a really solid guy as well. Really good relief pitcher, specialty guy. But it's cool to see their takes. It's cool to see the relationships that they've built in the game and how much respect that there is amongst these pros and former pros and teammates. Just great conversations. So always awesome to find a new podcast and just about something that interests you, and then just getting to learn more about guys that you wouldn't normally get to hear from. Again, all the guys I just mentioned were guys who I either really like watching now, or in Mike Sweeney's case, I watched him a lot growing up. He was a great pro for the Royals. But yeah, just a good, solid baseball engine for me right now. I just love listening to those guys.
Well, like we grew up with, Baseball Tonight and, Carl Ravitch and all these guys who never played the game of baseball. And it's great because, you're watching whatever, you're getting all this information. The era we live in now with podcasts and MLB TV, having all these players on, that perspective is so much more valuable. And they have such a cool, the stories they tell. And then you get a different perspective of the player. And like even AJ Przinsky talking, it's like,
oh, it's great.
I like this guy now. Like still don't like him as a player, still don't like him on the field, but his perspective, and I respect his fandom of the White Sox a little more now. But he's super critical of them. He's like, yeah, hey, they suck. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. But having this angle and this platform is fantastic. I think anytime you get former players talking, especially if you like the guy when he was playing, it just kind of hits better. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and kind of it was before the podcast era, but I remember people complaining all the time when David Ortiz and Alex Rodriguez would be on the call, and they're like, I don't want to listen to this guy talk about himself. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
No, yeah.
That is gold, listening to those guys talk. I want to hear about A-Rod facing Roger Clemens and Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson. I want to hear about David Ortiz facing Mariano Rivera. I want to hear about those things because it's interesting.
Yep.
I don't want to hear a bunch of boobs talk about things they don't know anything about.
Yeah,
they
you
have
can
no
have someone
experience.
facilitate the conversation, but at the same time, you want to hear it. Like last night on MLB Tonight, they had Harold Reynolds, who's always on. He's like every night. He wants to be on the show every night.
And Harold's great.
He's great. I'm glad he found a home. But then they had CC Sabathia, Chris Young, Dexter Fowler, and Yonder Alonso. Like, it was just, and Yonder Alonso's probably the last of the guy. Like, he didn't have a great career.
But Yonder's a good convo.
Yeah, he got all the talking points. But like again, you had 6 pros just talking back and forth, watching games, talking. Whatever they see. This is what I see. This is what I used to do when I go up to the plate. Oh, hey, let's flash. Oh, Dexter Fowler had 85 triples in his career. Let's talk about the PCA triple. Like, that's what you want to hear. That's who you want to hear from.
Well, even last night, I usually, when I'm watching the Cubs, I choose to listen to the home broadcast when I'm watching. You can select home or away. I decided to listen to the Braves broadcast, and I had no idea who was going to be on. And it was Chipper Jones, Tom Glavine, Brian McCann, Jeff Francoeur. That was awesome.
Yeah.
They were goofing on McCann all night for being slow. They were having a conversation with Skip during the Skip during the what's that?
Is it Skip or Chip Carey?
No. They were with Snitker.
Oh, Snitker. Okay.
They were having a conversation with him. No, Chip wasn't on that one.
Okay.
Or Skip wasn't on that one. But they were having a conversation with Snitker while the inning was going on, and Morton was just like getting hammered. And he's like, all right, we're going to let you go. And he's like, all right, sounds good. But yeah, it's just great. I love that stuff. I really enjoy it.
Yep, absolutely. My good, I have 2 goods. It could be 3. The Seattle Mariners are doing a lot of good things at their ballpark. They've lowered beer prices and food prices, and they've lowered ticket prices because they just want people to go and have a good time. Because you know what? They don't have to. They don't have to charge you $12 for some nachos, right? They don't have to charge you $10 for a soda. They more recently are doing a portion of the game where they drop hot dogs from the top of the stadium and play Heaven is a Place on Earth while they do this. Yes, please do that at every... Like, is that not great? Like, I remember Nick was talking about the Bratzuka. Like, yes, more things like that, please. I paid how much to be here? Probably $70+ to get in the stadium. Drop me a hot dog. At least give me the chance to get a hot dog. Like, and the song choice,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I've seen it like multiple times now. But yeah, the song choice is perfect. And you know what? That's what gets people going. They want to come to the ballpark and get a free hot dog. And you know what? You should give them a free hot dog just for coming to the game. It costs you, what, 7 cents? Give them a hot dog. So Mariners are my good team for the week. Well, actually, no. This is a different team. The Trenton Thunder have an alter ego. We, again, talked to Nick about how it's an alter ego universe right now in minor league baseball. They're in an MLB draft league, so it's not full season. Their alter ego is the Trenton Golden Retrievers. They have 2 full-time Golden Retriever bat boys. Yes, again, they just came out with the hats. I'll probably buy a hat at some point. I love my Golden Retriever. That is my second good for this week. A lot of good coming out that was unveiled for their upcoming season. Where they're going to have like Bark in the Park days and have their Goldens uniforms.
That's great. I mean, minor league baseball, they just do so many things right, and it was such a cool thing to be able to go and watch the River Dogs play. I mean, they've won the Carolina League like the last 3 years, so they're a good organization. The Rays are a top-notch organization, but the ballpark is just beautiful. Like, great architecture, super clean, great sight lines everywhere. You're kind of surrounded by the low country marsh out there, but yeah, they just do a lot of cool stuff. They keep people engaged. they had their alter ego stuff. That they're Charleston's the holy city, so that one of their alter egos is like an H and a C with like a halo over it. I almost bought a hat, but I bought this one instead. This is just a Tampa Bay Rays, like a snapback, kind of more of like a cool hat, like made of that material that keeps your head cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just minor league baseball is just a really special place, and it'd be interesting to just continue to check out more parks. I mean,
Yeah.
more minor league parks, because there's a lot of good baseball out there too.
Well,
I mean, I got to see a guy throw 102 miles an hour for the Nationals organization. That was fun.
You might see some good players, but it's more about just the experience. For us, like the Milkmen are the closest baseball team to us. It is unaffiliated baseball, but if they have a cool vibe, they won the American Association a couple years ago. So like that'll probably be our go-to for little Eli here. So like, you know.
Oh, Nick was also saying up by him and Appleton, they have the Dock Spiders, which is more of like a collegiate league. It's kind of like I think it's called the Frontier League. So it's kind of like the Cape, but it's more in the Midwest. But that's good baseball too.
Similar to like the Northwoods League and stuff like that.
Northwoods League, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Any bad? That was all good. That was all a lot of good stuff.
Lots of good, yeah.
Apparently Ryan didn't know about the hot dogs.
Yeah, that's great. That was great. That was another like laugh attack for me. That was good. My bad, and I want him to break out of this so bad. Corbin Carroll is having a sophomore slump.
I thought, same as me. Yeah, he is absolutely.
He's not hitting well. He's really he doesn't look like himself at all. I know he'll break out of it. I will probably see a regression. Unfortunately, I was kind of hoping that he would battle through it and get back to where he was. There's still plenty of time, but yeah, he's just off to a rough start like a lot of guys are right now.
Do you think there's a situation where, because they've dropped him in the lineup, they've moved him around, tried to get him going, do you think there's a point where they send him down?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you think there's a point
not going to
where
happen.
They sit him down?
Maybe. He's not going to get sent down.
He does
I don't think so.
Many things defensively, aggressively to stay in the game, but you can't hit 160. You just can't do it. And you're right.
No one's yet. Yeah, 539 OPS, which is still better than Javi Baez, by the way, and 6 extra base hits. So
that's the problem. Yeah. That's not what he was doing in October.
No,
that's not what he was doing all last year. Guys figure you out though, or you make a swing change, or you think you need to keep adjusting, and we've seen a lot of that this year. I feel like guys switching it up, and it's not working out.
No.
I saw this week. There was I believe it was from 2020, but it was in a Sports Illustrated cover, and it had Javi Baez and Tim Anderson as the future of shortstop in Major League Baseball. That's bad. That's really bad, especially with where they're at now. That aged horribly. Those are probably two of the worst hitting short. It's documented how bad they're hitting. If Javi Baez didn't make a ton of money, he'd be cut. Like every part of his game is horrible. Defensively, like he's sitting. They're sitting him for Zach McKinstry. They're like, hey, go ahead. And Zach McKinstry's not killing the ball, but he's doing better than Javi. I thought he was going to come in a little more rejuvenated. It's been bad. Tim Anderson.
I don't.
Also,
and Javi's getting worse every year. Yes. I just don't understand how you're that smart of a player and you just can't make an adjustment. Like everybody can figure it out eventually, especially when you played on an MVP level.
Yes.
He was such a special player for that like 5-year run. And I mean, even with the Mets, when he left the Cubs with the Mets, he was really good. That's how he got his contract.
Yeah.
He was dangerous with the Mets.
In Detroit, I understand it's a hard place to play, but Detroit's playing well, and you're not a part of it, and you're not the reason why they're playing well. It's tough.
I don't think it's a hard place to play. They have a lot of people show up to games. It's a great ballpark.
It's a hard place to play when they're losing. His first couple years in Detroit that was a bad team, and you kind of lose interest. It's also a big ballpark, and you're not hitting the ball out. But when you have as much swing and miss in there as he does, there's a columnist that was talking about when he knew Javi Baez wasn't elite. He was with the Cubs and there was a game on the line. All he had to do was put the ball in play, and they win the game.
Yeah.
Put the ball anywhere, fly ball, ground ball, you win the game. And
he took 3 big daddy hacks.
3 of the biggest swings he's seen. He had no interest in putting the ball in play or winning. He wanted to win the game with a home run, and you just needed to bunt it. I mean, it was so pathetic. Yeah. But he goes, that's been his approach, and that has. I mean, he misses by like feet. It's not even close, and it's just, it's. Again, that I remember, I'm pretty sure I had a subscription at that point to Sports Illustrated, but like I remember seeing that article or that cover, and it's like, that another one's just aged very poorly, like the Hawkisms, just aged very bad. Tim Anderson, not much more needs to be said there. He's just a sad excuse for a shortstop at this point.
Yep, and the White Sox were smart, and it's one smart move they made, and that they didn't pay him.
Yep, and you know what? No one did. $5 million for a shortstop for 1 year is not anything, and the Marlins are horrible. So
Yep, right, absolutely.
We'll keep trying to tap that funny bone. I think I just keep it under wraps until we get to it. But again, good to talk about baseball. It's good to see the Cubs still going the way they're going, but there's a lot of good out there, and we're definitely finding it as we go along. But all right, well,
absolutely.
Until next time, boots come in pairs. Take it easy, guys.
Peace, y'all.